So I run the St. Louis division for sales. If you guys have places that you frequent, such as this place, which obviously they support us, feel free to grab my card. If I can help you guys out in any way, let me know. But I'm not going to tell you guys all about our beer because the guys that make the beer, I drug them with me instead. So after a 14-hour shift, we have Chris. Give him hell. He can take it. And then we have Adam. Adam is our beer manager. What do you want to be called? He makes beer. So any questions, they will be able to help you guys. If it's sales reference or anything else, you can ask me. So I will let Adam introduce himself to you guys, and we'll go from there.
How's it going? I am Adam. I have been with the company since the beginning. Actually started out as the general manager of the restaurant brew pub and am now the head brewer, lead janitor. Take your pick. It doesn't really matter from day to day. We've had a lot of fun. We're growing constantly, so if you guys haven't been out there, you should check it out. We have a couple tap houses as well as one up in Alton, Illinois, if you are on that side of the river and up north. And I have known him for longer than we've worked together. So
miserable.
If we're a little weird, sorry.
Old married couple spend
Kind of, yeah.
14 hours a day together, 7 days a week. It happens.
This is Chris.
There's all hatred. It's in the beer, too. My name's Chris. I've been passionate about beer for about 12 years now. I started actually polishing tanks for Cathedral Square, my cousin's brewery. I went to Main Street for a little while, was a restaurant manager there, realized I hated it. Restaurants aren't for me, mostly because, well, I like doing stuff like this, talking to people about beer, but not so much, servers for obvious reasons. If anyone's worked in a restaurant. I've also worked for Four Hands Brewing Company. I started there as a packaging individual and moved over to 4204, started out on the packaging side of things, then upgraded to janitor. Adam and I have been cranking out some new recipes. We
That is true.
have an interesting method of trying to work on the marketing first and then coming up with a recipe later on, which is why we have a couple of things going on here.
Yeah, we get bored and come up with names and then try to figure out what kind of beer that should be.
No, it's how it should actually work, I think.
It actually does work. People
Great
are skeptical.
Great idea. Hey, what kind of beer would go with that? How do we do plays? Oh, we are actually getting ready to celebrate our 3rd year anniversary. We opened in May of 2014.
Now in Missouri, our sales are about 9 months young. So we've had distribution in Illinois for about a year and 3 months, and then distribution in Missouri for about 9. The restaurant's been up and operational for about 3 years, but brewery portion didn't really take off until these guys came in and made really good beer.
God.
Unfortunately.
Actually, it is kind of unfortunate. We actually look at each other every now and then and go, oh my God, that's really good. We should never do this again. We're done with good beer for a while. We just get more work.
Yeah. They sell it before it's done.
Actually, yes. Test batch. Sold. I don't know how that works out. We haven't even tried it yet. It's already sold.
Yeah, we are not the original brewers. I took over the brewery not quite a year ago, and then Chris did come to help bail me out because distribution was starting to go fairly good for us at the time, and I found myself being the only person at the brewery.
He needed more insanity in
So
his life.
I was kind of like, hey, you want to come back? And thankfully he did help me out with that one.
I will say I was completely smashed at the time. It was a horrible idea, kind of what brought me back from living on a tropical island. Don't make decisions when you are under any influence whatsoever.
I've known him for years. I know when to ask. What can I say?
The
Brand new place.
the Brewery Banquet Center. That is going to be a godsend for us. We are no longer going to be working 14-hour days, 7 days a week. It is a 35,000 square foot facility. It has an 8,000 square foot banquet center. We're going to get into some fun projects like barrel aging. We're going to actually be able to have vacation time, whether the owner knows it or not. We are going to be upgrading from our current 7-barrel brew house to a twin 30-barrel brew house. So we'll go in there, rock out different beers all the time, and still have time to enjoy drinking at the bar, which is a nice little place to hang out, I think.
Yeah, to give you an idea, right now we spend 14 to 18 hours a day making beer between the two of us. And in about a day and a half, we figured out we can do more than we can do in 2 weeks on our current brew system, which is very necessary because the beer is starting to really hit the market, and we are getting a little sleep deprived. House, we were just going to make some beer, sell some food, have a cool patio. People can come out and hang out. People started asking for some of our beer, so my owner's like, sure, absolutely. We'll send some kegs here. We'll send some kegs there. Got with Kerner Distributing over in Illinois. We are now with Major Brands in Missouri. The beer started to pick up, so he decided to do our first expansion, which was just adding some bigger fermenters to the back and keeping with the system. We outgrew that in 2 months. Basically.
Month and a half.
So then he just kept buying fermenters until we couldn't fit any more into the building. So we finally decided that it was time to go big or go home. And our new production facility went in, which makes us, in potential, the 4th largest brewery in the St. Louis metropolitan area.
So we can keep up with beers like The Answer, which you guys have probably mostly tried at this point. This is going to be, and this beer, I will tell you right now, so don't even bother asking, this beer has no style whatsoever. None whatsoever.
That is true.
The reason for that is we decided to take an approach of how do we bridge the gap between the craft beer drinker and everyone else? Because there isn't a common ground that a lot of people can fall on. Because guys like us will go out and we just want to have a beer sometimes. We don't want to go looking for anything crazy, although, well, sometimes we do. But how do we bridge that gap? How do we really get a beer that can appeal to both sides of the fence? Well, we came up with The Answer.
And this actually does completely go back to how we name things before we brew them. So one of the things when we started going to distribution we found is that there are actually 5 or 6 Main Street brewing companies in the United States of America. But we were Main Street 4204. So we were really focusing on the branding with our number, not our name. So you don't go to rate beer and rate one of our beers, or you think something out in West Virginia that they either loved and or hated is
West
something
Virginia
we made.
is really the popular one.
It really is. I think that's the best one on the market. So 4204, we were trying to play off the number a little bit, as you will find with our 2 newest releases, The Answer being the first one. And if you've ever read or watched, but I recommend reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Don't watch it.
You will understand where we came from with this one. So, Answer to Life, the Universe, and Everything is 42. So I was like, hey, we have 42 in our number. Let's make a beer called The Answer. And then we were like, what should that beer be? We had no idea. So we just started going, let's just make a recipe. Doesn't fit a style.
Doesn't have to.
But like Chris said, really trying to bridge the gap between your domestic beer drinkers dipping the toe into the water, and then something that someone like me, who's probably had 8,000 different craft beers in his life, would order a second one at a bar, sit there, drink, enjoy, watch a football game. I'm not looking for something that's crazy out there, that's barrel aged, that's 12%. I just want something I could have 2 or 3 pints of. And I'm hoping we hit it. Yes. Not yet.
I really hope they don't, because we spent a lot of time and money, more time than money, on a really great idea.
We're pretty sure we were under the radar enough that this one's going to fly, although if you are a fan of the book and the novel series, you will pick up on some references, not only on the can, but with the name.
And the writing on the can.
We toned it down. There was a lot more references when we first started.
Yeah, we had to cut a lot of those out. Yeah. And by a lot, I mean all. So, what do you guys think so far? I know that's kind of your thing after, but... Oh, the ABV. Yeah.
ABV on this one is
We missed the mark on this one.
is 4.8. We were thinking about 4.2, but it sat better a little bit higher. We were certainly going for a session beer on this one. Again, something that we can just sit down at the bar and have multiple pints of.
Or lawnmower beer. Or
Lawnmower
fishing
beer, as I call it, yeah, the fishing beer. IBUs on this are 20, 21. So it's got just enough there for you, but nothing hoppy. We did go through a couple versions. This is our third version. The first version we made was my owner's favorite, and much to his chagrin, we were like, nah, I don't think so.
Actually, we both looked at each other and said,
it's not what we want.
Exact same thing. Too light, not enough flavor.
Yep. So we made a second version, which was a little more to my liking.
Is it a lager or an ale?
It is an ale.
It is an ale.
It is an ale.
This is actually an ale. We do ferment it a little bit cooler, so it gets a nice, clean flavor to it, so it doesn't get any kind of off flavors that you would typically get from doing a hotter fermentation. That was something we were going for because there are a lot of people that when they are first getting into this beer, they're coming from a lager background. So trying to really get as much common ground as we possibly can was something that we really wanted to do.
Our second version, I'm a hop head, so I loved it. But we definitely, as soon as we tasted that one too, we're like, yeah, that's getting a little hoppier.
Actually, you said you loved it, and I said it's no good.
Only
because he said he loved it. I said that's not going to be the beer then.
And I knew it was true because we were looking for a good session ale. So we put it to a vote in our restaurant, and they were absolutely no help because both versions went straight down the middle. About 100 people, I think it was 51 and 49. So finally we're like, all right, we're going to marry the two, and we're going to find the one that really sits in the middle. And I'm really happy that we did because this one really is that middle beer. I would have a second one, but a lot of people that are really new to beer but aren't really quite ready to tackle the IPAs and the Imperial Stouts, they've really sat and enjoyed quite a few of them.
Coming from a lager background for a lot of people, or blondes, or things that are easy to drink, want to get into a little bit more craft beer. Here's the answer. Oh, you're into craft beer, but you want something that you can drink every day? Here's the answer.
That, but really trying to get some of the new beers that, we want to drink more than anything out to the market.
Yeah, some other beers too.
Some other beers too. I personally, and I know Chris kind of falls on this too, I love to revisit classic styles. Craft beer is exploding so much now that one of my passions is finding the little-known styles and bringing them back out, letting people try them. Much like Chris, we've been home brewers for 15-plus years, so
something like that.
I never made the same beer twice, so that's been kind of
what was the one we found the other day that was in the new BJCP style guideline? And we looked at each other and go, God, that sounds like an absolutely
awful
beer.
Sounds awful.
The
But
description of it, let's make it. Why not? Because
it's like pure wheat and smoked malt. It's not going to be good. It's from Czechoslovakia. I get it.
Pivo Godriski.
Yep, Pivo Grodziska. You have to say it right. Come on, accent.
Marijuana. God, I hope it happens. And we've determined, we set a challenge for ourselves. If they actually pass the law, we are going to turn one of our 7-barrel fermenters into a bong for a day.
With only commonly found brewery parts. We did challenge ourselves.
So, this is the 420.
Look for that on YouTube.
And yes, it has a slash and a 4, so we can be a little bit more PC, but we definitely did get a little bit of backlash on the label approval. This is an American Pale Ale. It is exactly what it sounds like. You get a great hop hit to it, some malty backing on it, just a nice, drinkable beer. And he has to tell you the numbers because I'm not going to lie, shit with them.
Another thing where we were going with our name. So 420/4 was actually an idea I had about a week into distribution. Originally, I was thinking a really overhop Belgian quad. But as we started moving forward and looking for another mainstay beer in the market,
And we thought IPA.
We were kind of thinking IPA, and then we're like, but
Shot that down.
IPAs are great. And again, like I said earlier, I'm a hop head, but we're looking for something that you can sit and drink a couple of and isn't going to be a complete palate wrecker. So we did kind of come down on the APA side of it. This one is 5.5% alcohol by volume. It is about 31 IBUs. And we are using a few modern hops, but we're trying to find an interesting blend on some things that have been in the market.
Not Mosaic.
For about 10 years. Yes, not Mosaic. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a hop, but I will never use it.
Love the hop.
Because, well, everyone else
Everyone's
has.
doing it.
So with this one, like you said, it's a little bit of breadiness undertone. We're trying to get a classic American Pale Ale. If any of you guys have ever had, and I'm assuming if you're sitting in this class you had, like a Sierra Nevada, some of the early ones, you get a little bit of bitterness undertone, but it subdues fairly quickly. We're looking for a modern take on an American Pale Ale where you get a little bit more citrus notes up top, a little bit of roast, a little bit of fun ending notes. And an aroma that,
I'm just thinking back to making 5 of these in a row, and God, salvaging every single one of them.
There are 4 hop varieties in it as well. That was kind of a goal that we set for ourselves. If we're going to call it the 420/4, we should use 4 hops.
So what are the 4 hops?
All right, I can tell you this.
We're close.
No,
we're close.
definitely not. We're
Not Mosaic.
We're launching. People have asked this so much, and we've been a little hesitant because some of the hop combinations we found have replicated some new hard-to-find hops.
We're close enough to the date. Guess what it is?
And people have been asking us a lot. Yes, 420 is the date. But in this one, we use
So enjoy, because
Nuggets.
it's not in the market yet.
We use Cascade, Centennial, and Zythos. Nugget, Cascade, Centennial, Zythos.
We went with a very subtle name. We didn't want to get too over the top with it, so we called it Over the Moon. And we have a distributor rep that wants to take down Blue Moon handles with it because everyone has said, oh, wow, this is everything that beer should have been in the first place. So
He's like, can we really go with that? I'm like, sure, why not?
and then
I'm
have
not
a backup
lawyer.
name.
So you got a letter on that beer?
Oh, no,
We're
not
waiting
yet.
for it.
You won't get one.
Well, there's lemon too, right?
Oh, it's a different recipe entirely.
It is a different recipe.
You won't get a. They can't do that on the word two.
I kind of hope we do.
They can try. I've seen it.
Hey, we won't fight it because, well, I mean, we're not completely stupid, but why not get it? So what you have in your hands now or in your mouths or stomachs or processing somewhere in the area of is one of the beers that actually made our company. This is the Pecan Brown Ale, a beer that was only supposed to be a one-off and is so often the case in the brewing industry. Sometimes one-offs turn into workhorses.
Yeah.
So when we make this beer, we actually do roast the pecans in-house. 20 pounds go into every single batch. Obviously, right now we're on a 7-barrel system, so 20 pounds.
Is a fair amount of pecans for the beer.
This fool roasts them all the time. I don't.
Yes, I come in a good 2 hours before we even mash in for the beer to roast the pecans to try to keep as much consistency as we can with this beer.
That's why he does it, not me.
Yes, like you said, it became the flagship. It was originally titled the Belleville 200 because when we opened, it was Belleville's 200th anniversary, and we decided to make a beer for the 200th anniversary. Of course, it was the most popular beer, and then I showed my owner what pecans actually cost per pound, and then his eyes got pretty big. But people loved it. They wanted it by then, and it was kind of no going back on that beer, so...
And this is our IPA.
yeah. Yeah, he's like, well, IPAs are expensive, right? I go, well, they were expensive, but...
We found a
We
new
use
way to
pecans.
spend money.
No.
God.
This is more of a Northern English style brown ale. It's kind of light. It's not going to have your overly roasty American brown notes you're going to have. You're not going to pick up a lot of chocolate. It should be smooth and sessionable.
And if you haven't had it yet, no, it is not going to taste like pralines.
No, it does not have an underlying caramel or sweet note to it. It is fairly highly attenuated, so there isn't a lot of residual sugar. If you have actually had pecans, raw pecans, pecans off a tree, you will pick up the pecan notes. When I first started speaking with people about the pecan, they're like, it doesn't taste like pecans. I go, what's a pecan taste like? And they would freeze every time. Freeze every time. I'm like, have you had a pecan that wasn't a pecan pie or an ice cream? No.
Or the stuff that they do at the Ren fairs, because I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Those are bitching.
So there is a nutty undertone to it.
Yeah,
it
who
is
got
going
hungry
to be
for those now?
smooth, a little rich,
Yeah.
just a touch of roast, not too much on this one. This was a session beer at heart. This comes in at 5.5 ABV and about 22 IBUs. And as he said, we do actually use 20 pounds of pecan. We use them in the mash in the same way that we're using the grains. So you don't boil the pecans in this beer. You don't get those tannins. You don't get that tight note that I have had it with some nut browns. We want it to be very smooth and rich.
Smooth and rich. Horrible stuff. No.
Yeah, I mean,
God, no.
yeah, absolutely.
They actually come in a wonderful, wonderful little torn to hell bunch of crumbs, basically.
Yeah,
They're
pre-processed. So I am a workaholic, but cracking pecans for 20 pounds, that's where I draw the line. So we do get them from a pecan farmer. As local as we could get that could actually source enough pecans. I think we went through, 500 pounds of pecans in the first year that we were making this beer. As we
I'm
said,
not going to lie. I kind of want to order
flagship.
whole pecans to see if you'll actually crush them.
No, I won't.
I bet you will.
And this August, mid-August,
August.
I'm going to say 15th, but don't hold me to it.
I like
Hold
the
her
15th.
to it. And it was an India brown lager.
No. India
red lager. Yeah, it's a little brownish.
Yeah, mahogany.
That's what I said, mahogany. But so our first challenge, we decided, why don't we do a lager? Because they're hard. Everyone shies away from lagers. I love lagers. In fact, I think we've done 4 in the last 3 or 4 months. And we got to set that as a goal for us. We want to do a lager. We want it to be slightly hoppy, but not so hoppy that it destroys what it is. And we gave ourselves exactly 6 weeks from the time we brewed it to the time it had to be canned and on the shelves. So
We made our goal.
yeah, we did.
Didn't say
And it
much.
was the zombie lager, which will be released around the same time that everyone else is releasing their Oktoberfest. So if you're looking for something a little new, definitely check out our zombie lager that will be coming out.
So, Doppelbock,
Doppelbock, yes.
Kanuki,
America.
Merca.
We have a light lager that we've been playing with because we do have such a large restaurant. We do not carry quote-unquote domestic beer.
And the
which-
beer had 5 names before we even
Yeah.
brewed a batch of it.
I agree with Ken.
Kanuki. All right, Kanuki.
Hold on, let's go through the names.
All right, so America, because all of you who know what AB did over the summer with America, we said, screw it. Let's really just piss them off. America! Tastes like freedom.
Tastes like freedom.
What's the can going to look like?
our boss was-
Star-spangled awesome.
Actually a little nervous about that one. He's like, do you really want to poke the giant?
Yep.
Of course, we were like, absolutely. It's like, I don't know.
So what are you seeing on the can? I'm seeing a guy with a mullet, cut off jeans, wife beater. He's got a flag in one hand, eagle in the other, and the
Driving
eagle
a-
has a mullet.
And he's driving a muscle car.
See, there it is. The other option was Kanuki. Canoe nookie, canoe sex,
'Cause it's
fucking close to water. And the label was going to be arms and legs sticking out of a canoe. You know, they're actually really cool about a lot of stuff. You would be amazed at what you can get away with. It's not the guys that make the label you have to get past. It's the one guy sitting in his office, and if he gets in a bad mood, he can deny your label.
Yes.
And it is just one guy, I'm certain at this point.
And
Yeah.
we digress because you do have in front of you the next beer. in our lineup. Which, when we first came out to the market, marketing was kind of new to us. There are two things you will notice with a lot of craft breweries, and I know this is a long time ago, that you either go with just calling it what it is or coming up with somewhat of a creative name. Great example is Abita, fantastic brewery down in New Orleans. They have Abita, what the beer is. And then you have companies like Lagunitas or Stone, where everything is a cool name, Arrogant Bastard,
Until they did Purple Haze.
What's that?
Until they did Purple Haze.
Until they did Purple Haze. Yes, they got confused much like us. So we
happens.
apparently couldn't make a decision when we first hit the market, so some of our beers were exactly what they were.
You say we, I wasn't there.
I wasn't in part of the decision.
Still blame you.
Dunkelweizen. So one of the things that we're going now to away is, you're going to have to guess what the style is. That's up for you. We're going to try to name it something funny because that's fun for us. But on this one, it is a Dunkelweizen, which, if it is not an overly popular style in America, though
Unless
it
you're
is
in
starting
Kansas
to
City.
find a resurgence. And what that is it's a darker Weiss beer. Everyone, I think, who is in this class right now has had a Hefeweizen. And most of you have probably had a real Hefeweizen. That name got really popular a long time ago. I will not mention the brewery.
I
But
won't
a
do it this time.
Hefeweizen should have a banana or a clove note underneath it. It should be
It should not be a bitter
Very-
American wheat.
very foggy. It should not
He knows.
flocculate the
He
yeast
gets it.
whatsoever. Yeah, you guys know. I said nothing.
I didn't say it. He said it. Oh, he said it.
Oh,
he said it. Actually, you wanna fire off? I'll give you the mic. There it is. Yeah, you guys thought about it back there in the back? Yeah, all right.
But what we were looking for is to do something. We like to do some stuff that's a little different. And so we made a dark German wheat. It's got just a little bit more roast. Typically, a Dunkelweizen has a little bit less wheat in
I'm
the
still
grain
thinking
bill.
80 degrees.
A little bit more on the barley side. You're going to have a little bit of banana, a little bit of clove, and there should be a little bit of residual sweetness in this. Just something new for the wheat beer drinkers.
I'm still thinking we up the temperature on the fermentation.
A little more banana.
Yeah. That's a
5.3.
Seriously, I'm not
Numbers
joking.
are mine, not
I am
my job.
horrible with numbers. You tell me your name, I will remember that. He remembers the numbers, I remember the names, and provide brief moments of levity. Not right now. More like... No, because yin and yang actually work together well. I usually tell him good morning by saying, "Oi, prick!"
It is true. I answer to it. And the sad thing is I'm his boss. But no, on this...
I've never viewed it that way.
Yeah, we're really hoping for something a little interesting for people to try. A lot of people are familiar with German Dunkels, which is just dark. So this is a dark wheat.
I still think hotter fermentation.
Yeah, possibly.
Can we?
Hotter fermentation. So one of the things that in the brewing process, if any of you are home brewers, want to be a home brewer, or just
Like beer.
like beer, yeast will change its flavor profile based on the temperature it's actually fermenting at.
If you guys have-
especially non-clean strains, like you have your neutral American strains that really 62 degrees to 70 degrees isn't going to matter.
Off flavor is not necessarily a dirty word depending on the style. If you guys have ever had the, sometimes Joy, if you like that, if it hits your palate right, Guldendrock is a great beer to really taste the yeast in. Why? Because they let that sucker rip at 82 degrees. You're going to get some banana off of that. You're going to get those flavors that really kind of jump out. That's all about the yeast. We're trying to go for that with this. Still kind of keep it a little bit on the clean side because, well, it's not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to make enough money to brew my next batch of beer.
It's true. It's true.
You going to drink it? There you go. You look like you were going to say something.
I thought about it, but then I
I
was
stopped.
like, I'm
I
thirsty.
stopped. I actually stopped for you. How often does that happen?
Very rarely. Very Juele on the market. Starts as our blonde ale. So what I get off of this one, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, because fruit beers are not typically my go-to, as I like 100+ IBU IPAs in general. But I get a little bit of a breadiness underneath a blonde ale. So if you ever have had those Manila wafer cookies that come in 3 colors, that's the pink one. That's what I get off of this beer. That's kind of what we're going for. Not overly sweet like strawberry shortcake, but kind of like a strawberry dessert, because the blonde in its essence is kind of a bready beer.
You know what? In all fairness, Brandy, come on up here.
Come on.
You're doing this one because you know this is your beer at this point. Because no, what do you do for it? What do you tell everyone about? Yeah.
So, the beer is good, fact. But what I realized makes it better, beer. So I like mimosas, but maybe I just am not like really receptive towards acids. So mimosas for me give me more acid reflux without the alcohol. Whereas if you make a beer mimosa, you're cutting down the acidity and adding in a little bit more extra alcohol content. So when I make my beer mimosas, and you can do it with a rosé or rose champagne or with regular either style. I use specifically a rosé for mine because it helps. I think personally it helps bring out the strawberry in the beer. So equal portions on your champagne and your beer, and then obviously your nice splash of OJ. It's a little surprising on how good it is because when you smell the mimosa, you pick up on that strawberry nose, whereas you guys probably realize the strawberry nose of this beer is a lot stronger than the flavor of the strawberry in beer. So when you make that mimosa with it, you pick up on that nice smell, but then it has a strawberry finish. It doesn't overpower the mimosa itself. So my Sundays used to be like 1 or 2 mimosas, whereas my last couple Sundays have been like a 6-pack.
I think you break her on the sales rep.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good song included, but they're also pretty wonderful. So, you know, like, you don't have to be really fancy with your mimosas. By rosé or rose champagne, you can go out and get like a $7 if you want, or if you want to splurge, you can.
Just put more beer in it, it's okay.
As long as you put the strawberry in it, I don't care what else you do. It's your Sunday fun day, each their own, but it does make a really, really, really good beer mimosa.
I could have Sunday fun day.
You take it down, it's not here.
I'm not answering the phone.
Not on it.
Anyone need a phone? Anyone need a Samsung? Giving it away?
And this one is
That thing is gonna blow up in a day or two.
Fruit series, so we do have a blueberry coming out. And then a peach.
Blueberry peach.
And I think that's pretty much it, yeah.
Not
Blueberry
the
and
same
peach.
thing. They're going to be separate beers. Blueberry
Yeah, go
and
ahead.
peach. Yeah.
No. So it is a natural strawberry flavoring, but it is processed down so that wild bacteria and yeast are no longer present. Because one of the biggest things when brewing beer is that you have to be conscious of the fact that this is going into a can. This has to be shelf stable. So it is processed down. So don't think of it as like a strawberry puree, but more of a strawberry extract without being chemical.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, it pretty much is. And that's the only way. Most breweries you're going to see, even some famous beers, if you look at
pipe
it,
down,
natural flavorings. Yeah, you're going to see natural flavorings, and it's always going to be hard when you're distributing a beer to throw live fruit into the fermenter. If you do, you need to actually do some processing after the fact to make sure that beer is safe and sanitary.